What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ethan. I'm back with another poker video, and today we're back at the Twin River Casino playing some 1-2 no limit. I buy in for the max of 300 for the first time, and we're just gonna get into some interesting hands that I played along the way. So let's get down to it. First interesting hand of the vlog that we have today, I am in the low jack, and we get 5 limpers to me, actions on me, and I look down at Jack 10 of clubs. Jack 10 suited, very playable hand. Gonna absolutely have to raise it to 16 here, and I get 3 callers, so we're 4 ways to the flop. The flop comes 9-9-8 with 1 club, so flop an open ender and a backdoor flush draw, so not looking too bad. So it checks to me, and I decide to bet 25, and I only get 1 caller. So now I am out of position, and we'll see what happens on the turn. Turn comes Ace of Clubs, so it's a pretty good card for me, I'll be honest with you. So here it gets a little interesting where I decide to lead out for $50 just to put some more money in the pots, because now I pick up more equity, I'm pretty sure. And the ace could hit his range as well. I'm not really sure what he would be calling with, but I bet 50, then he ends up raising me to 100. So I'm thinking of all the hands that he could raise with, and then I go a little out of line. Instead of calling, I decide to shove, and I decide to shove about 200 more or so. He covers me by a lot, so I'm repping probably maybe 9s. I think at this point I'm repping 9s. I don't think I'm repping a straight or flush draw, but if he thinks I have 9s, that's probably better if it comes on the river. But he thinks for quite some time and decides to make the fold. Here in this hand, I'm not sure if I played it right, but it ended up working out in my favor where I won the pot and didn't have to go to the river. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you guys think that I played that well or not, but I decided to shove all in, try to get the money in at least now, and just hope for the best and gamble on the river. But let me know if I played that well. Second hand we have today, we look down at Jack 9 offsuit in middle position with the Jack of spades, which turns out to be pretty interesting. This is also a very questionable, iffy hand. So we'll get into it. So we get 2 limpers to me. I decide to limp for $2. Then the person on my direct left bumps up to 12. There's 1 cold call who didn't limp before. The undergun plus 2 calls, and I decide to give it a call as well. So it's 4 ways to the flop again. Flop comes King 10-9 with 2 spades. So flop bottom pair, I flop backdoor straight, and I flop backdoor flush draw. Not that great, I guess. So it checks around. I checks around to the initial raise of the guy on my direct left. He decides to make it 25. Then the under the gun plus 2 calls at 25, and I think I'm getting a mediocre price to continue, so I decide to call as well. I easily could have folded, but at this point, I decided let's just see a turn and see what happens if I pick up some equity. The turn actually comes super nice for me, I guess, super favorable. It's the 8 of spades, so now I pick up the flush draw and open-ended straight draw with middle pair. So checks around to the initial raiser again. I decide to check. Obviously, I don't know. I just want to see because he's the initial raiser, so he should be more aggressive. He decides to bet $50. The undergun plus 2 folds, and I think for a little bit, I don't know if I have the right equity, but for $50 is the $50 raise or bet is a mediocre amount for me to. It's a standard bet, I guess, and he definitely has me beat by now, and I decided to make the call because I wanted to see a river and I want to see if I can river to this guy, but I'd have no idea if that was the right call. I don't think it was, because then the river turned out to be the 5 of diamonds. Absolute brick. I check. I'm just going to give up here because I just missed all my draws. He bets 75, and I just fold immediately. So I lose that decent sized pot there. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. I was kind of chasing, I was kind of gambling, so that didn't work out for me that time. The next hand we have here, I am in the big blind, and I look down at pocket jacks. So the under the gun player decides to open up to $10, and this under the gun player is super weak. Literally, first time I've ever experienced playing with someone worse than me, like notably worse than me. Like he was calling pre-flop raises with queen 5 offsuit, like stupid stuff like that, and then he would pair the board with a 5 and with like obviously 2 other overcards, and he would just continually call and continually call. He's a calling station, and I don't know. He's a super weak player, so love to see him opening up to 10 because you never know what he would have. He was a real wild card here, but the under the gun, he opens up to $10. The guy in middle position and the button decide to call. And with looking at pocket jacks, I'll 3-bet, raise it up to $30. Thank God the under the gun calls. And then the guy in middle position decides to shove for his remaining stack. He shoves for $130 in total, so an extra 100 on top pretty much. And then actions onto the button. The button tanks for 2 to 3 minutes. He looks at his cards and he says there's no way he can fold this, but he decides to fold. Then the actions on me now with pocket jacks. I have no idea what he could be playing with his hand, with the guy in middle position that wants to get it all in. He wants to shove 130 pre-flop. I'm putting him on jacks. I'm putting him on ace king. I'm not putting him on jacks. I have jacks. I'm putting him on queens, kings, ace king, aces, all those premium hands. But I decide to eventually say, fuck it, let's gamble, and make the call. Then the under the gun folds. So we're heads up. We're just going to go straight to the action. The button then says that he had ace king. The way I folded, he said he couldn't fold the ace king suited, so that made me feel super good knowing that the ace and at least one ace and one king is off the board, so it makes it less likely for him to have aces or kings. But if he has queens, then I'm drawing dead, obviously. I'm not drawing dead, but it's not looking too great. But anyways, heads up to the flop. Flop comes 7, 7, 10. River is a 4, then the turn is a 4, then the river is an 8. Middle position guy shows queen 8 suited. He picked up a pair on the river, and I show my jacks, and I pick that one down. So I make the hero call. Shoving with queen 8 suited is kind of ridiculous, but thankfully I made the right decision and won a pretty decent pot right there. So I'm happy about that. Few orbits later, I'm in the big blind again, looking down at pocket 9s. So there are 3 limps into the cutoff. To describe this cutoff player, he's super aggressive. He played 2-5 normally, so I know he's a pretty good player, but he plays super aggressive as in he would raise it up with 7-5 suited. He'd raise it up with 2-5 suited. He'd raise pretty much almost everything, and he's lost every other pot more or less. But he makes it 15, which is a standard raise, so he could be raising with literally anything with dead money on the table, more or less. So the cutoff raises to 15, small blind calls, and obviously I'm going to call, and everyone else folds. So 3 ways to the flop, out of position, I guess, kind of. So the flop comes Jack 8-6 rainbow. With just the jack above, I don't feel comfortable with betting because I have no idea what the cutoff's range could be. So small blind checks, I check, then the cutoff decides to check as well, which is great. Great news that he checks because it seems as though he had nothing. Then the turn comes the 7 of diamonds. So now I pick up an open-ended flush straight draw, which is very interesting in this spot here. Turn comes the 7 of diamonds, small blind checks, I check again. And now the cutoff, super aggressive cutoff, bets $25. Honestly, looking at the board, I guess I don't really have a decision to call or not. I was honestly thinking of folding at the moment, but then the small blind decided to call. So now I get an even better price with middle pair, because I know I'm beat with any jack, and I feel like it's very likely that one of those two had a jack. But the small blind calls, and I get a pretty good price, and I decide to give it a call as well. The river comes the Queen of Hearts. Now, I hate that card. Hate it with a burning passion, because if someone doesn't have jacks, and someone must have queens. But small blind checks again. I check, and the aggressive guy checks back. I don't know. He had nothing, I guess. I flip my pocket nines, and we take that one down, which is super nice to win a pot against a guy that plays 2-5. Few orbits later, few hands later, I'm in the small blind. I look down at king jack offsuit. So now, this time, the under the gun player, who I talked about earlier, super weak, he decided to move a spot. He moved a seat over to the left, so now he's under the gun when I'm in the small blind. He leads. He ends up limping for $2. Then there are 3 limps around to me, and I decide to raise it to $15 with dead money on the table. King jack off, not a terrible holding. I decided to go for it. Thankfully, once again, the under the gun calls, and the button calls as well. So 3 ways to the flop comes 7 king queen with 2 hearts. I don't have a heart, which is not great, but actions onto me. I lead out for $25 just to bet with top pair. The under the gun super weak player decides to call, which is great news once again, and the button folds. So now once again, heads up with this guy who is super weak and just someone I really want to take all his money from. The turn comes the 8 of diamonds, which is great. More or less a brick, I feel like. So I lead out once again for $35, and he quickly calls again. Once again, that's great. So then the river comes the 2 of spades. With top pair, I should be good most of the time with top pair and a decent kicker. So I decide to bet $50. And he goes in the tank for some reason. He thinks a lot, and then decides to fold flat face up. He decides to fold his cards face up with king 3 off. He told me that he knew that I probably had a king, and the kicker wasn't great at all, so he decided to just keep on calling. But I'll take his money. That's fine. I would have won that regardless, but the fact that he called my $15 raise with king 3 off is ridiculous, which is the reason why I think he's playing very unprofitable poker, but I was happy to have him at the table, to be honest, because I just kept going after him all night long. Now, the last hand that I'm going to go over in this vlog here, super interesting. Need you to pay attention to this because this is bizarre. One of the most bizarre hands I've ever played. A lot of bizarre hands were played, but this last hand, I'm in middle position, and I have pocket 8s. So we have 2 limpers. Another guy in middle position makes it $12. Then action onto me. I just have to call the $12 with my 8s. The cutoff calls. One of the limpers fold, and then the other one calls. So 4 ways to the flop again, and the flop becomes pretty favorable with 2, 6, 8 with 1 spade, with the 8 of spades there. So I flop top set. I should be good 99% of the time. So, or 100% of the time right now. I'm definitely good 100% of the time here. So I can't really do much. I feel like this board is super dry, so when the action's onto me, when it checks to me, I decide to check, try to set a trap, and it checks around. The turn comes the 8 of spades, bringing in the backdoor flush draw, the spades flush draw. So once again, it checks to me. At this point, I think I need a bet. I got to put some money in there just to build up the size of the pot. So I throw in 25. The cutoff calls, and everyone else folds. So we're heads up to the river, and the river comes the 2 of spades. When the flop came, I didn't really see the 2. I didn't really notice the 2. But I was really only focused on the 8 of spades, because the board came 2, 6, 8, 8 of spades, and then the turn came the queen of spades. So I was really focused on not having the flush draw come in, and I totally forgot about the other 2. So I didn't know the board paired at this point. When the river came out for the 2 of spades, I only saw the flush coming in. I have top set. I only see a flush. I didn't see the front 2 that came out, which becomes super important, because right now I technically have a boat, but I only thought that I had a set, and I thought a flush would beat me. So I hated this 2 card. I hated this 2 of spades. So I decided to check, because I thought, fuck, I can't really win if I bet. I'll only get called by better, because the flush came in. That's the only thing that couldn't beat me. That kind of made sense. So I check. Then the cutoff then bets $35. And normally at this point, if he bets $35, then I knew that I had a full house, I would have just raised all in, or at least raised like $80, $90, $95, $100, something like that, right? That would only make sense. But I tank because I think a flush would beat me, and I thought that he hit the flush. So I call. I tank call because I think I'm beat by a flush, and I didn't know I had a full house. I'm a rookie, I know. But then he flips his twos. So I thought that he had just a set of twos, because I didn't see the first of all. Once again, I still didn't realize that he made the quads, but he flipped over twos, and I think I'm good because I think that he had a set of twos. I flipped over my eights, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, like great play by me," but I mean, oh my god, I mean, I just lost the minimum with a full house compared to some quads, some quad deuces. So just got back in my car, on my way home now, after my session. So just gonna give you guys a post-session recap or review of how everything went today. So played for about 5 hours, and for the first hour and a half, I was stuck $50 or so. I was up probably like 50, and then I kind of lost a lot of it on the stupid Jack 9 hand that I'm sure I'll tell you guys about. Just being really dumb there. I just chased, and I don't know, that was stupid. But I was up 50, then I lost like $100, so I was stuck 50, and I was pretty pissed. So instead of going on tilt, I decided to get up, get some Dunkin' Donuts, get my coffee in me, and sit back down. And the next 3 hours or so went pretty well, to be honest with you. We have that hand with jacks that I'm sure I told you guys about. That was making that hero call was insane to a guy who shoved. And I don't know, I just got lucky, I guess. I don't know, or he was just being dumb. But made that hero call, which is great, and things just went well from there. So just started making good plays, picked my spots with the hands I had, and took advantage of some people who weren't really good at poker. Lucky enough, I wasn't the worst player at the table, which is actually super insane, because that usually, most of the time when I play, I usually am the worst player. But session went really well, I'll be honest with you. Played for 5 hours. I bought in for 300 and cashed out for 815. So cashed out for $515 profit. Booked my biggest win today at this session. So things looking up from there. So hopefully we can continue this and keep running well and continue playing good poker. And hopefully it'll be more good things to come. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a thumbs up if you did. Ooh. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.